You know that one feeling? That sinking feeling in the pit of your stomach? Imagine it's Tuesday morning. You're rushing out the door, coffee in one hand, keys in the other, already running 5 minutes late for work. You get in your car, turn the key, and nothing. Just that hollow clicking sound. Listen closely, because in that exact moment, your brain doesn't just register a mechanical failure, it registers a financial crisis. If you have 10 grand in the bank, a dead car battery or a blown transmission is an annoyance. It's a bad morning. But if you have $40 in your checking account and maxed out credit cards, that clicking sound is a catastrophe. It means you're missing work. Missing work means a smaller paycheck. A smaller paycheck means missing the rent. So you swipe a credit card you can't afford to pay off, triggering a late fee on another bill because you diverted the funds, and suddenly a $200 repair costs you $2,000 in long-term interest and fees. My name is William, and I spend way too much time thinking about the poor tax, how bad credit and low savings make everything more expensive. If you're someone who they live paycheck to paycheck with a low credit score or no savings, so they pay higher interest, more fees, and worse terms on almost everything they buy, be sure to subscribe and like this video if it helps you. Here's the thing. We tend to think of poverty or being broke as simply a lack of money. You have $0, so you can't buy things. Simple, right? But that's actually wrong. Being broke is expensive. In fact, it is exceptionally expensive to be poor in this economy. There is a systematic premium charged to people who have the least amount of money. It's like an invisible tax that the wealthy never even see, but the working class pays every single day. And I'm not talking about federal taxes or state taxes. I'm talking about market-driven penalties for not having capital. Let's start with the most obvious one, which is the credit score. This is where the math gets brutal. Most people don't realize just how much a 3-digit number actually costs them in real hard cash. Let's look at a concrete example. Let's say you need to buy a car. Nothing fancy, just a reliable vehicle to get to work. You're looking at a used sedan for $25,000. Person A, let's call him Saver Sam, has a credit score of 780. He walks into the dealership, shakes hands, and gets a loan with a 5% interest rate over 60 months. His monthly payment is roughly $472. Over the life of that loan, he pays about $3,300 in interest. Total cost of the car, $28,300. Now look at person B, Broke Bob. Bob needs the exact same car to get to the exact same job. But Bob had a medical emergency 2 years ago, missed some payments, and his credit score is 580. The bank looks at him as high risk. They don't give him 5%, they give him 18%. Now 18% sounds bad, but let's look at the actual dollars. Bob's monthly payment jumps to $635. That is $163 more every single month for the exact same hunk of metal. But here's the kicker. Over the life of that loan, Bob pays roughly $13,100 in interest. Saver Sam paid $3,300 in interest. Broke Bob paid over $10,000. That is a $10,000 poor tax on a single purchase. Think about what Bob could have done with that extra $10,000. That's an emergency fund. That's an investment account compounding at 8%. But he never gets to see that money because it was vaporized by the interest rate spread. And this is just one car. Apply this math to credit cards, personal loans, and mortgages, and you start to see why it's mathematically impossible for some people to catch up. Now, you might be thinking, well, William, that's just the risk premium. The bank has to protect itself. And sure, I get that. But here's what most people don't realize. This penalty extends to things that have nothing to do with lending money. Did you know that in many states, your credit score impacts your car insurance premiums? I'm serious. You could have a perfect driving record, never a speeding ticket, never an accident, you drive like a grandma, but if your credit score tanks, your insurance premium can nearly double. According to data from Consumer Reports, in some states, a driver with a poor credit score pays significantly more than a driver with a DWI conviction who has excellent credit. Let that sink in. You are statistically paying more for insurance because you are poor than someone who was convicted of driving drunk but has money.
That is the poor tax in its purest form. It's a penalty for financial instability that creates more financial instability. And then we have to talk about the banking system itself. This is where it gets really interesting and, frankly, a little infuriating. The banking business model has shifted over the last 2 decades. Banks used to make money primarily by lending out your deposits. Now, a massive chunk of their revenue comes from fee income. And who pays the fees? Not the wealthy. If you keep $5,000 in your checking account, the bank waives the monthly maintenance fee. They give you free checks. They might even reimburse your ATM fees. It costs you nothing to bank. But if you are living on the edge, struggling to keep $50 in the account, bam, $12 monthly maintenance fee. That's $144 a year just for the privilege of having a place to put your money. But it gets worse. Let's talk about overdraft fees. You miscalculate your balance by $4. You buy a coffee for $5. Your balance was $4. The bank approves the transaction, how nice of them, right? And then slaps you with a $35 overdraft fee. So that $5 coffee just cost you $40. If you calculated that as an interest rate, look, borrowing $4 for a few days at the cost of $35 is an annual percentage rate in the thousands. It is loan shark territory. And the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau found that a tiny percentage of customers, mostly those with low balances and low credit, pay almost all of the overdraft fees. The banks are effectively subsidizing free checking for the rich by harvesting fees from the poor. And it's not just the banks, it's the grocery store, it's the toilet paper. Have you ever heard of the Boots theory? It's this concept from a Terry Pratchett novel, but it perfectly explains the economics of being broke. The theory goes like this. A rich man buys a pair of $100 boots that last for 10 years. A poor man can't afford the $100 boots, so he buys the cheap $20 boots. But the cheap boots fall apart after 6 months. So, over 10 years, the poor man has to buy 20 pairs of $20 boots. He spends $400 on boots. The rich man spent $100. The poor man spent 4 times as much to have wet feet. We see this in the grocery store every day. If you have $200 to spend at Costco, you can buy toilet paper, rice, and laundry detergent in bulk. The unit price is incredibly low. But if you only have $20 until Friday, you can't shop at Costco. You have to go to the corner store or the dollar store. You buy the single roll of toilet paper, the small bottle of detergent. When you break down the price per ounce, the poor person is paying 30 to 50% more for the exact same household goods. Why? Because they lack the liquidity to access the bulk discount. You are literally paying a premium for not having cash on hand.
Let's take it a step further. Let's talk about the psychological tax. This is something economists call tunneling. There was a study done by Sendel Mulanathan and Eldar Shafir, authors of a book called Scarcity. They found that when people are worried about money, like genuinely stressed about how to pay the rent, their cognitive function drops. It drops by the equivalent of about 13 IQ points. That's the difference between average intelligence and being borderline deficient. Why does this happen? Because your brain is a processor with limited bandwidth. If 60% of your processing power is running a background program called How Do I Not Get Evicted, you have less brain power left for long-term planning, impulse control, or solving complex problems. So when people ask, why do poor people make such bad financial decisions? Why did they take that payday loan? Why did they buy that rent-to-own furniture? The answer isn't that they are stupid. The answer is that scarcity forces you to focus on the immediate fire in front of you. You take the payday loan because you need to eat today. You do the rent-to-own sofa because you need a place to sit today, and you don't have $600 cash. Let's look at the math of rent-to-own places. You walk in, you see a laptop. The tag says $30 a week. Sounds cheap, right? Anyone can afford $30, but you have to pay that for 78 weeks. Do the math. 30 times 78 is $2,340 for a laptop that retails at Best Buy for $600. You are paying 4 times the value of the item. This is an APR of over 100%. But if you don't have the $600 cash and you have bad credit, this is your only option. The market knows you have no options, so it charges you the maximum price. Now, you might be thinking, Okay, William, this is depressing. The system is rigged. What am I supposed to do about it? And look, I'm not going to sit here and tell you it's easy. It's not. Breaking out of this cycle is like trying to run up a muddy hill while wearing a backpack full of rocks. But you can take rocks out of the backpack. The first step is realizing that your credit score is not just a vanity metric. It is the gatekeeper to your wealth. You have to protect it with your life. If your score is low, your number one priority, above almost anything else, is fixing it. Most people don't realize that you can dispute negative marks on your credit report. A massive percentage of credit reports contain errors. Go to annualcreditreport.com. It's free. Pull your reports and look for anything that doesn't look right. Dispute it. If they can't prove it, they have to remove it. I've seen people jump 50 or 60 points just by cleaning up errors. That 60 points could be the difference between a 20% interest rate and a 10% interest rate. Second, you have to stop the bleeding on fees. If your bank charges a monthly maintenance fee, leave today. There are plenty of online banks, Chime, Ally, SoFi, that charge 0 monthly fees and have no overdraft fees, or at least much friendlier policies. Do not stay loyal to a bank that is charging you rent for your money. Third, and this is the hardest one, you have to break the monthly payment mindset. The poor tax thrives on people who ask, how much is the monthly payment, instead of, how much is the total cost? Salespeople love the monthly payment buyer. They can hide thousands of dollars in fees, extended warranties, and high interest rates just by stretching the loan term out. Oh, it's only $200 a month. Yeah, for 84 months for a laptop that will break down in 48 months. Every time you buy something, get your phone out. Do the multiplication. Monthly payment times number of months. If that laptop costs $2,300 via rent-to-own, you are better off buying a cheap $200 Chromebook for cash or going to the library until you save up. You simply cannot afford to pay 300% interest when you are trying to build wealth. And look, I know there's a lot of shame wrapped up in this. We live in a society that equates net worth with self-worth. If you're broke, you feel like you failed. But listen to me, the math doesn't care about your feelings. The math is neutral. The system is designed to extract maximum value from those with the least leverage. That is the reality. The only way to win is to stop playing by their rules. You have to get angry at the math. Get angry at the fact that you're paying $13,000 in interest for a car. Use that anger to fuel a temporary lifestyle sacrifice. If you can save just $1,000, just that first $1,000 emergency fund, you stop the reliance on credit cards for minor repairs. You stop the overdraft fees. You stop the payday loans. That $1,000 is your shield. It protects you from the first layer of the poor tax. Then, as your savings grow, you can buy the better boots. You can buy the bulk toilet paper. You can pay the car insurance in full for 6 months to get the discount. Suddenly, life gets cheaper. It's a weird paradox. The more money you have, the less money life costs you. So here is my challenge to you. Look at your last 3 months of bank statements. Highlight every fee, every interest charge, every late penalty. Add it up. That number, that is your enemy. That is money that you earned, that you traded your life hours for, that gave you absolutely zero value in return. It just vanished into the system. Take that number, get mad at it, and decide that you are going to close the leak. Whether that's cutting up the credit card, switching banks, or driving a beater car for 2 years while you fix your credit. The poor tax is real. It is oppressive, but it is not undefeated. You can opt out, but you have to be willing to do the math that most people ignore. If this video opened your eyes to how expensive the system really is, hit that like button so the algorithm shows it to more people who need to hear it. And let me know in the comments, what's the most ridiculous fee or poor tax you've ever had to pay? I read all of them. Don't let bad credit and low savings tax your future. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.